to educate, motivate, and build one another through shared knowledge and success. This is Young and Successful, and these are your hosts, Jay Chukwi, Kenny Awashika, and PJ Luminan.
Welcome back to the Young and Successful podcast. We're very excited about this one. We have today with us Dr.Beau Sauls on the podcast. Dr.Beau Sauls is a rehab specialist for over 12 years now, leading expert in Kinetic in the United States. He is also the co-owner of Kinetic Center US. And depending on the day and depending on how he's feeling, he's also a Lululemon ambassador. Dr.Beau Sauls.
Give us the sauce.
Hey, man. Thank you, first of all, for joining us. We know your time is very important. I want to thank you for taking the time out to speak with us and tell us a little bit about what you do. Welcome to Young and Successful.
Well, thank you, guys. I'm happy to be here. Che, I've known you for a while, and you've always been a great person, a good individual. That's why I like to surround myself with is good people. As soon as you reached out to me, I was all about jumping on the podcast.
Of course.
What I do specifically is I am the leading expert in the 3D technology that highlights your movement patterns. What that means is it's going to baseline your functional movement, as in 12 basic human movements, and it sees and scores you out of 100 how well you do that. But I also look at gait analysis. I look at ACL and knee injury risk with the system. And I use this objective data to help identify problem areas and help you prevent injury as well as help you with pain. Now, that's what I do every day with patients. But what I do on a larger scale is I train doctors and I'm opening clinics. I am one of the co-owners for the Kinetic Center franchise, the US side right now, because that's what we're building. And I will be international as well, but the US as it is now. And we're opening a second location already, 25 miles west of the clinic that I have here in Dallas. And I'll be a co-owner. I'm a main owner of this clinic, and I'll be a co-owner of that clinic. And we're going to continue to open these and train doctors on how to use objective data and technology versus subjective, as in using my eyes to analyze you and saying how I feel about your movement. We don't do that. We want actually to remove the human out of the process and help people with technology and the data points. So that's kind of what I do on that. And occasionally I'm Lululemon ambassador. I'm rocking it right now. But I can wear slacks and I can wear everything and move and show rehabs and do it all I need to do. I did get to work with a lot of doctors through a rehab and myofascial company. That was a very good company before, and where I became a rehab specialist, and I've taken that and advanced it over the years through my education. So that's pretty much the breakdown of myself.
Oh man, that's incredible. Listen, Lululemon or slacks or whatever the case might be, Dr. Beau packs a punch, right? And we're going to talk a lot about that today. Now, I've known, like Beau mentioned earlier, we've known each other for a while now. I ran into Dr. Beau here back when he was at Parker University, right? If you're finishing your studies there. And right after that, he jumped into the entrepreneurship realm, right? Starting his own practice, as he's mentioned, and everything like that. But take us back a little bit, right? Before you got to this point, what made you choose this path? Is it something you've always been interested in, or you kind of stumbled into it along the way? Give us a little bit more background there.
So I think that it's an accumulation of different processes, and I don't think we can ever attribute anything where we are now to one thing. You and I recently talked about and Kenny, we talked about finding different processes through COVID and how people have had to find ways to advance themselves professionally and individually. But it all started as I'm an ex-basketball player. I was talking to a Division I school as a sophomore from a 3A high school out in the middle of the country. I was the only basketball player on my team. I should not have been talking to that large of a school, but to the level of effort and how I worked for myself was why I had that. But I took a bad injury, and it kind of ruined a lot of things sport-wise for me. I still played for a year, but I walked onto a small school, and really the coaches didn't know me there. And they had left before I got there. It was just a bad situation. And then I left that school to go play somewhere else, and then got hurt again. And it was just a continuation of injury. So you think you kind of see what I do now, but I actually graduated undergrad. I was a double major kinesiology and broadcasting. broadcast communications at first. But when I transferred to my last school, Tarleton, my last undergrad school, they told me they didn't offer the double major of kinesiology and communications. I already had plenty of my kinesiology courses taken. So I thought I was going to go that route, but a professor I really respect and I still respect, he said, Beau, you should do communications. You have a skill there. And so I ended up graduating actually with a broadcast communication degree. And that's whenever I became a sports editor for a newspaper. And I was a sports director for a local radio station that was actually a public station that was still, it was located on campus, but it was the public radio station for the area. And I actually created a sports program for there too. So I've done a lot of creation as I go through. And the side there is, it's not that I thought I would be here at that time, but I worked when I was an athlete, I had really good doctors. The company I was a rehab specialist for, one of the founding doctors of that company was my doctor. And he took care of me. He's the reason I got to even try to play after all my injuries, and even got to play a little bit. But he's why I did that. And then after I was working as a sports editor for the newspaper for about a year, I just didn't feel it was my calling. I wasn't necessarily directly helping people. Like I thought I was going to be getting these kids and athletes more scholarship opportunity and more recognition, but it was more about the local basis versus actually being able to spread across national for them. So I wasn't hitting where I was helping people as much as I wanted. That's kind of always been a focus of mine, is helping others. And so what I did was I contacted the doctor that was my doctor for a while. And I said, his name is Dr. Perry. I said, Dr. Perry, I do believe that I'm probably not in the best fit for myself. Is there something that I could do here? And he said, you would be a great rehab specialist. And he kind of laughed. He was like, you've been hurt so much, you got to know it all already by now. I mean, obviously that's not true, but because you're always learning. There's always more to learn, especially in my field too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so I went back and I worked as a rehab specialist there. I actually got to work with about 20 different doctors, not for long periods of time each, but how the company worked, I would go help other doctors in different locations. And the interesting thing about that is I got to see how each different doctor operates, and me being through the process so many times myself. And then also like understanding, because I studied on my own too, and I studied from these doctors, learning all of their rehab that they preferred for these things. I really got to, in my opinion, see what I thought worked really well and maybe wasn't the best route for it all the time. And for me, it kind of just immersed myself in different rehabs and treatments and all these different things to do. And that was for about almost 4 years. And at the very end, I worked with one of my mentors, Dr. Casey Crisp. And Dr. Crisp and I, we helped a lot of people, and we helped a lot of people together. And he actually is one of the first people that empowered me to be my own rehab specialist. And he made me write a 12-page paper or something like that when I was making like $12 an hour or whatever it was. I was so upset about that. I was like, man, I am not here writing papers. I'm out of school. I'm not going back to school. That's before I got my doctorate. So I was like, I'm not going back to school or anything. But it was one of those things, like he was mentoring me and he was showing me that there's greater future. There's bigger steps that I was going to take. And I think it really kind of opened my brain to what possibilities are for every individual, and really that you kind of limit yourself on what it is. And I see that every day in people, whether it's their health or professionally, whatever it is, like they limit themselves on how far they're going to be and if they're going to be successful or not. And I talk to doctors about that a lot too. But Dr. Crisp and I really got to get together and really see, he helped me see the bigger future. Then I went into chiro school, and that's kind of, then I interned in Canada with the technology and I brought those clinics down, but that's another part of the story. So.
No, absolutely.
Doc, you're making it sound so easy here. So you were in school, you were double major, and you're also playing sports. Most people that play sports just slack off. Like, I'm going to the NBA. Don't need to take school seriously, right? But you were also double majoring and going to school, right?
No. So think like in the beginning, I was playing on the basketball team for my first year, and then there was some, like, maybe my own personality issues got in the way of some other things. And I was like, this school isn't going to be it. And me and these coaches aren't going to be it together. We're not a good fit together.
Yeah.
And I had some things I need to work on individually. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
ever a coach's fault like that. I had my own things I needed to work on, but I was utilized differently. So I left that school planning on going to, and I actually started playing with some of the team players at the next school I went to. And I was going to that tryout, and a week before that tryout, I broke my ankle again. And so it was just like a cyclical cycle. I ended up breaking my right ankle 4 times, and it was just so much trauma. Like, we did x-rays when I was in Cairo school. I was 26 years old, and I have degenerative joint disease of both of my ankles. And
Oh man.
you get that diagnosis at like 50 or 60 years old, not 26. And like all the ligaments and soft tissue become bone. And I saw it in my own eyes. I was like, dang, I just learned about this. This is like,
That's too right. Wow.
but so
Absolutely.
what you're saying though, so is after that, I didn't really play sports. And I'll tell you, that was a depressive time for me though. You have to think, like, I played basketball since I was 5 years old. I'm a fairly good basketball player still, but like to the level that I was 14 and 15 talking to a D1, and I didn't get to do that because of my injuries. And I didn't get to continue the plan that I thought God and I thought everything was right for me. And that's just, you don't make your own plans. And that was a big life lesson in itself. But nothing about it was easy. The mental battle was for my side is like, again, I restrained myself and I held myself down. And that's a big part that I try not to do as much anymore.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
this is exactly what the show is about, right? Is to show people that you can face life challenges and you can still find alternative ways to push through it and find better ways or find a better life or get to that same future. Or you sometimes you don't know your journey. You might find your journey along the way, but pushing through it, through all those difficult times, that's really what's critical. So yeah, I'm just trying to break the story down here for everybody else listening to it. Is that your goal was really sports. So I'm a soccer person. You're basketball, right? And I could tell
Yep.
too that when I could no longer play soccer because of my knee injuries, I was depressed. So I can just imagine what you were going through when things were just getting started for you, and then life happens, right?
Yep.
Then you
Absolutely.
then you recover from that, and then you started double majoring, right?
Yep.
Communications and
Yep.
kinesiology, right? And then you graduated with communications, and most people say, "Oh, I'm doing communications. It's not working out, man. My career is screwed. I'm done." But then you became innovative, and you're like, "Hey, doc, I see you all the time, man. I might as well be your employee." So like some people, like I always tell people that sometimes you have to go back to go forward, because in this case, you're quitting your good paying job to just go sit in the doctor's office, almost probably paying not as much as you were getting paid in your communications job, to go back, take a pay cut, and help somebody else build their practice while you are learning at the same time. Most people don't want to do that. People don't believe in giving out free work while you're trying to learn, which
Not at all.
I'm kind of assuming that that's exactly what you did. And look at you now, years later, you went back so that you can project yourself. I always say, like, show if I can plant some seeds right now, right?
Hey man,
The way,
okay,
the
Kenny
way,
the
the,
farmer. So here, Bo, on the show here, we refer to Kenny as the farmer because right before he drops some wild knowledge, he usually says I'm about to plant some seeds, right? So
Okay.
go ahead, okay, Kenny, plant the seeds, man. We're
Cultivate.
right.
Let's
listening.
So
go.
like, so in a way, it's like a catapult, right? You put the seed in the projectile, and you lock and load, and you pull back. So your pulling
Yeah,
back is when you went back to hang out with the doctor for a couple of years and
yeah,
learn from all those doctors. And by the time it comes out of that, hey man, look at now, you have your own company and you're about to be a co-owner of another company. And I tell people that that's life. You just got to put in the work, and sometimes the work requires that you go back before you can go forward. That's the seed right there.
no,
Yep.
absolutely, and I agree, and rebound he did, right? He kind of went back and he came back, packing a punch because from the moment I met Dr. Beau, it's kind of one of those things
Yeah.
where talking with him, I could tell instantly that this guy is definitely a lot more than a doctor, right? Yeah, you get it. You have a doctor, and most of the time, they help you with the issue and things like that. But whenever I ran into Dr. Beau and we had conversations, it was just conversations that just kind of went beyond the boundaries of what you would have with a typical person in the medical field, right? Because he was also an entrepreneur, so he spoke a language that I understood as well, and we were able to kind of collaborate in that space. And just with the short times that I spent at his office talking to him, he was always like a wealth of knowledge just pouring down. So, and I think one thing that I felt that we had in common, and something that he definitely exudes all the time, is that mindset of providing values to others, right? Putting others before himself. And we're going to dive a bit deeper into the technology which you use, right? Because he is doing it in such a unique way and in such a powerful way that it's unlike anything I've seen before. So tell us, Dr. Beau, for you, where do you think you kind of cultivated that spirit, considering everything you went through, right? You kind of went through this depressed period of time, constantly getting injured, but there is clearly that drive, there is that fire to be consistent and keep growing, right? It's something that I don't think you can teach people that. I don't think that you can suddenly just instill that in someone. You have to have that in you. So where do you think, for you, what is it for you that keeps you driven, right? And pushing to provide that value to others?
Well, I think it's accumulation. I think there's multiple. I think it's my parents and what they put into me. And I was raised on a little ranch. I didn't come from money. I didn't come from anything like that. I came from out in the country. Had some old horses on there. I get in trouble. I'd be out digging up cactus and cutting mesquite and doing stuff like that, coming in bleeding 105 at a 90% humidity in South Texas. And I come in, my mom's like, "You got anything smart to say?" And I was like, "No, ma'am. That's it." Like, you don't work, you know what I mean? Like, and that's it. And then my parents tried to help me pay for some college and for undergrad, but I covered most of it. And then Cairo school again, like I take student loans out and I put myself through Cairo school. And like, again, like it was one of those things. It's not like this was a gift or anything. It's stuff that I've had to put through. Now, saying that, like, even whenever I was working with that company as a rehab specialist, one of my major drives too was my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife and my life partner. She is one of my biggest coaches and motivators. I would not be the doctor, the human, the anything that I am, the entrepreneur I am today without her. There's what I do is because Dr. Chris told me I needed to be a doctor. And every day she said, "There's no reason you should still be doing this." And I was just like, I don't even know if I can do it. I've been out of school for 4 or 5 years. Like, what am I going to go back and take these chemistries, these biochemistries, the physiologies, and take all these science? I didn't even want to take that in undergrad. Man. I wanted to hoop. I wanted to cross someone up and have some fun. That's what I was. But the thing is, like, you do it, you see it, and then you know that like all of us are adaptable. We're humans. Humans are adaptable creatures. It's the fact that, again, that you don't put a ceiling on yourself. And I do have to give a shout out to one of my last mentors, who's Dr. Ryan Camo. We co-own the Kinetic Centers together. He invented the technology we're going to talk about, and now he is my business partner. He saw that in me, and I see that in him, and we know what we can do together. And without this list of people that I have in my life and people that I have, like I told you, surround yourself with good people. And all the people I can say I attribute to where I am today and where I will be is because of the people I continue to surround myself with. I know people that I'm friends with and people I think are good people, but I don't surround myself with all the same people. I surround myself with the people that I think do things for the right reasons and are trying to help others. And then again, if you do that, you'll get to that point that you want to be at, and grind it out. Don't worry about some sweat and some blood. That's in everything that you do. Like, there's going to be sweat and blood and everything. Yeah. Don't.
Yes, sir.
When there's a down. That's not a down step. That's a learning step. Now you don't do it the next year when you have all this happen. You have all this great benefit and gain, whatever, if it's monetarily or if it's business wise, whatever. When that thing comes back around, you know exactly how to handle it, and you make that something that's a benefit, and you times what you have by 2 versus dropping down another level and trying to build it back up. So like whenever I went back to school, or I took the job back as a rehab specialist, had to relearn everything, I had the opportunity to train with 20 different doctors. I went in my class when I was in Cairo school, I'm the only one who got to train with 20 different doctors for that long before they went into Cairo school. That's before I got my doctorates. So think about 18
Oh,
people a
wow.
day, almost 4 years, 20 different doctors, all of their knowledge, and I'm just soaking it in for 3 to 4 years, taking all that in, because I know what that's going to be in 10 years, and I know what I can build into that and what I can take from others. Not taking, but like taking their knowledge and learning. Everything we know is not like, yeah, we do creation, but we create off what we know. And what we know is someone that has educated us in a process. But if you, who you pay attention to, and if you're with the right people, you can build something cool.
Yeah. It's funny. We had a video the other day about who you follow, right? And also
Yeah,
surrounding yourself with good people. And you just mentioned everything.
absolutely. Who you follow is I think it's something that is very incredible, and the people you surround yourself with absolutely makes a huge difference in essentially your life trajectory, if you will, right? Because you find yourself around a certain group of people, you end up doing essentially the same things that they're doing. If they're winning, you'll be winning, right? If they're not winning, well, you know how that goes. So
Yeah, I do. I was the only
yeah,
basketball player on like 1 out of 5. You can't win. You're the only basketball player on a court. I was out there trying to win. You're going to lose as a team.
yeah,
And you're not
exactly.
gonna win.
Right, and that's the way it goes. But I think something important that you also said is just this period of time that you spend just learning, right? Education, soaking in knowledge, and I think over this period of time, it is manifesting itself. As you can see, you're building something very cool. So let's jump into some of the technology that which you're using in essentially in sports rehab, right? Um, for the longest of times, and for people who are into for athletes like yourself, right? When you were really into sports, when you got injured, the process of healing and things like that was not as advanced as it is now, right? To say the least. And with my gym, and this is a conversation we had a while back, the concept behind and the mindset we had when we created Progressive Overload Dallas is to have an environment where you're training with people who have this mindset of using knowledge, right, to train. This is where we start separating the old school guys from the new school guys. If you remember the old school guys, you had to be massive and they were just kind of like pulling things and breaking things. There are a bunch of athletes who were from the old generation that we see them now, and they're not doing so good. They're literally disintegrating over time.
Right.
At the same time, you have the new age people who are, they look normal, right? They don't look massive, swole, humongous, anything like that. If anyone has seen my gym, it's essentially that's what it is. It's just a bunch of people who are just like you and I, and they're extremely strong because they strategically train using information, using technology. And in the same way, when it comes to rehab and just maintenance and things like that, using technology absolutely changes the game. And the first time I came across that was when I met Beau. Using lasers and everything else that you have at your location there, and then to learn that you're essentially at the forefront of this thing, right? One of the people pushing it here in the US. Tell us about it. Just take us to the deep end of the pool, man. Tell us all about it. What it is you guys do.
All right. So I'm going to give you right before I brought this clinic down to Texas, to
Yeah.
Dallas. Um, I graduated from chiropractic school. And again, I put in more time. I worked because I interned in Canada in the Kinetic Center, the first Kinetic Center in Canada, in Alberta. I interned there when I also at the same time interned with the tech company at the exact same time. So I was interning at both places. And my wife stayed in San Antonio, and I was there for about 5 months. And then I graduated chiro school, and I worked for the tech company for about a year. And what I did was I helped grow different parts. I helped develop some things. I helped create some videos. I created the podcast, which I still run as a co-podcast, mine and theirs, even though I don't work for the company directly anymore. But I worked for a year for them. I also got to do some pretty cool things like screen pro athletes. I screened the Atlanta Braves for 2 spring trainings in a row, meaning that they took us out there and we screened them. Now, a cool part here is, again, this is, I'm doing it for a company, but I'm the one doing it and I'm learning, and I get to recreate these processes, and not just the processes, I get to develop my own. And this is something that I did with the end of, so there are 2 guys that created the technology. One of them was a movement doctor, a functional movement chiropractor. And I've changed the title here in the clinics to movement doctors for a reason, because as soon as you hear chiropractor, you think you're going to lay on a table, get popped a bunch all the way through.
Bones. I think I need something right now.
I enjoy adjustments, man. I used to come by. I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I'm not. And again, there's nothing wrong with chiropractic. I get a lot of flack, and I get a lot of stuff from my fellow chiropractors. It's not that I'm saying I'm not a chiropractor. I'm just saying I do something different, and I do. And what we do is we use a 3D technology. When you come in as a new patient, you're going to go through what's called a full functional movement screen. I take you through 12 movements, and they're trunk spinal motions to measure, and they compare to AMA, American Medical Association guidelines, and they see how you stack up. Then there's an overhead squat, reverse lunge. There's bilateral external rotation of the upper body that measures the whole body at the same time. Then it does a single leg balance and a single leg hop for power output. Now that's just the basic, not basic, that's a very, in like over 350 data points, all this stuff. It's a very intense screen, but that's the one thing that everyone gets. I also do a 3D posture analysis that shows me during this whole time, it's showing an overhead view of your body as it's moving. So imagine looking down at yourself and seeing where you're rotating when you can't really visually see that well, because it's very minute rotations. Like if I'm sitting here right now, I just rotated and dropped my shoulders, but you can't tell that as well. You probably can a little bit if you're trained, but on the system, it highlights it and it gives you to the degree and the number that it shows it. And so it does that through all these movements. And at the end, it gives a readout. And at the readout, it gives you your top 6 dysfunctions. So out of those movements, where did you have mobility issues? Where did you have stability issues? And it's going to highlight the top 6, because we all have like 1,000 in our bodies, but we really need to focus on the ones that affect us the most. Then it's also going to baseline you on overall categories of functionality, like balance, flexibility, lower extremity strength. It goes through all these. Susceptibility to injury is a huge one. Due to your movement patterns, are you more susceptible to getting an injury right now if you're playing a sport than others? It has all that. Then it has, shoot it.
Yeah, so if I was to come to your practice, right, and I didn't tell you that, okay, I have knee problems, I roll my ankles all the time, and I have lower back pains, if you run me through your system, you can probably say, okay, based on all of this is most likely the kind of problems that you have.
I hear this every day. Like I have someone that comes to me for like an elbow, a low back, a knee, whatever it is, whatever's bothering them at the time. And I'm going to get into the aspect clinically why that's helpful too. But they come to me for that. And then they're like, wow, that's my hurt shoulder from like 3 years ago. I didn't even think about that. And then they're like, oh, I did that too to my hip like 5 years ago. I didn't even tell you about that. I hear it every day. And I'm like, well, it's definitely still affecting you. And again, just like the question about like what got me to this point, it's never one thing that got you to that point. And that's in your movement, in your health, everything. It's not like we all ate one cheeseburger and then we were all out of control of our weight, right? Like it's not one thing that got you to
cheeseburger.
But let's not people want to act like that. That's not what it is. It's an accumulation of things. You probably don't drink a lot of water. You probably don't exercise. You probably don't sleep well. You're probably not getting sunlight. There's multiple things that are going to affect your overall wellness. When it comes to movement, it's the same thing. And you have these old injuries. You have these underlying base. What I love to do, my favorite part, is I like to find the basic movement pattern that someone's had since they were like 10 years old. You've been 10 years old and you've been walking this way and moving this way, and you think this is going to change overnight. But you're 40 years old now. It's been 30 years and you move like this. You cannot tell me in 2 weeks of rehab you're going to have that fixed. You're not. Right. But your symptoms are going to feel better because you're not overloading it to the level that you were before, because you're starting to revert. So not only are we using the technology to highlight what's going on in your body right now, I'm using it to highlight what's been going on in your body and where your movement patterns are off. So I do a risk and knee injury analysis where it shows to the degree of how much the knee collapses, the speed that it collapses, what the hip is doing in the process, and I can measure it and it scores it all out. So I can compare that for my jumping athletes, or not even just any athlete that is risk like soccer. You know about knee injury.
Yeah.
There's a ton of knee, ankle and knee. So what happens is the knee is moving too much, and you go to cut on an open field, and you see
That's
an
what
ACL
happens.
go.
Popped.
Yeah. But
That's what happens.
nobody knows why. And the problem is that it's not the same answer for everybody. And we cannot continue to think that we're going to do one thing and fix everyone without doing baseline analysis on people and finding their greatest weaknesses. And yes, most likely we all have a similar weakness in this area. But if this person broke their ankle a year ago, the ankle's probably affecting it. If they herniated a disc in their back, I promise you their core and their back and their hip are affecting it. There's multiple factors and each individual is different. So the technology will build all these data points, baseline all these movement patterns. And then not only do we use the tech, but we use the years of knowledge that I have collected with these doctors, rehab, all these different things. And I'm putting like my chiropractic degree, my doctorates, I'm putting all of this in and everything that I've seen for all these years. And now I do a full history with you. The first visit's an hour long. Like you're not coming to me and getting popped up in 5 minutes and walking out. This is why I'm different. Like that's what I'm saying.
Hey, I just need the back pop, man. Come on.
I know. That's not you. It's not at you. It's like whenever a Cairo watches this, because I know a Cairo is going to watch this. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a different process, and it's okay. Like that helps a lot of people, and they help a lot of people with injury, and they help people feel better, and they help people get better.
Right.
What I do is different. I go in and I baseline these movement patterns. I spend probably 20 minutes going through a full history with you, learning all about your past. You're telling about your injuries. Then I do an orthopedic screen that I'm well trained in. And I do a neurologic screen. And then I do a functional movement screen, 3D posture analysis, gait analysis. I take all that data. Then I tell you what I think is going on with you. I don't spend 5 minutes and then tell you what I think is going on with you just because you pointed here and said it hurts there. I don't do that. I don't do 4 shoulder, 5, 6, maybe 8 shoulder tests that take me 5 minutes. I don't do that. I look at how, there it is. Take that forward head posture. So look at the different aspects. Now we know clinically that things are going to feed other areas. We know that, like forward head posture is going to affect a upper back or it's going to affect a shoulder. But I also know that if I know what's going on in your hips and your low back at the same time, I can help you get better faster and I can help you prevent re-injury. Now, the really cool part here is I get patients all the time for acute injuries, meaning they come in with something that just happened or something that just started hurting more and they just can't take it. Like they rolled an ankle, they hurt their shoulder lifting, they hurt their hip or back, and they come in with that acute injury. I have probably a 70 to 80% retention rate on my patients becoming wellness patients, meaning that they're no longer hurt, but they want to continue to prevent injury with me because they know that they come back to me in 3 to 6 weeks. If they're an athlete, I see them once every 2 weeks to keep them moving at the best shape possible. But let's say average is 3 to 6 weeks, and they come back to me, I will rescreen them. They don't even have to they can tell me some of what they've been doing, but I compare the data of where they were to where they are, and I see their biggest breakdown points, and I go after those movement imbalances and I treat them there. And I have people that have injuries that like costochondritis, inflammation in these ribs. I have a lady who went to 7 different doctors and she no longer had it. And it's been like over a year and she hasn't had a flare up at all. I have another lady who had bilateral Achilles tendonitis on both sides. And she went to multiple doctors, injections, PTs. And the last PT she went to said, you just have tight tendons. And some people just have tight tendons. And I started laughing. And I was like, yes, so do I. But why don't we find out why and then go after that problem? Now, again, she's the one who had the gait pattern that was from when she was 10 years old. So I said, this is what's the problem. This is why no one's going to help you with this, because unless you fix this problem that you've had, and it's not going to go away overnight, and you're going to have to spend a month to 2 months and 3 months of just doing this rehab to fix this pattern because you built it in over 40 years. And in 40 years, you're not going to fix that in a month. So she put in her time, she put in her work. Achilles are at 0 pain. and she can do what she wants. She's back to exercising, doing what she wants to do. And that's, I've got so many stories like that.
Hey,
And
my story is in there as well, because I think I can attest to what he's saying, because when I in my powerlifting, my short powerlifting career, right, I think one of the biggest things that I always struggled with was, and it's something you're familiar, it's kind of like my arm, right? When I squat, I always complain to you about the pain that I have in my arm. Now, when that pain started, it's just kind of something where I was trying to tackle. I'm like, well, what is going on? I'm just trying to figure out. I'm feeling this pain in my arm, and I'm so focused on where the pain is until once I went over to Dr. Beau's clinic, and we did a scan and everything. I think what is really cool about the technology is that now you're able to identify exactly what it is. And the beautiful thing about that is that you can now you can set up a plan to address that issue, right? You don't necessarily have to get hurt before you need this. It's something that is, I would say, it's good for everyone. Just figure out where you are and determine if an injury is coming up down the road, right? So from that, getting the scan and them giving me some exercises to do, and then I come back for a rescan and I can see that, hey, okay, this is different. I'm doing the same things, but I'm seeing that I'm able to move a little bit better now. So, and then of course I get adjusted, man. I like getting adjusted, even if I didn't need it. It was
like
just
the
my thing.
adjustment. I mean,
It felt
the
nice, man.
reason
It feels
chiropractors are
good.
always going to be in business.
Hey, look, man, you
Yo,
get off the table and you just feel like, yeah.
does your gym members get access to this? Is this one of the kudos of being
Well,
uh,
that's so we
that's the
actually
partnership you guys have in place?
we have Dr. Boy and I have worked in the past, where we had sort of events at the gym where they came out with the technology and scanned people,
Yeah.
right, to expose people to the technology. And some people checked it out. I'm sure some came by as well to the clinic to just follow up on it. So we worked together in that way, and I thought it was because, for one, just the personality that he had when I met him, right? He's just such a strong personality and just genuine, and just the true desire to help other people, right? When you're around people who are that positive, it's just intoxicating. So
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, we have to do more. We have to let more people know about this. So we worked on that, and I think it's when you're doing whatever it is you're doing, and you're putting people first, right? You're because some people, it's kind of like all about money, right? But I think when you put people first, providing value to other people first, everything is easy going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's definitely what Dr. Beau does, and that's what makes me feel good about working with him, and working with him in the past, right? And here we are again, and that's exactly why I reached out to you again. So, um, before I move on to my next question here, Kenny, do you want to follow up on anything?
Yeah. Because I'm sure someone is probably watching is like, I wonder if they take healthcare. Does my healthcare cover this? Can I use it? Because I need one
Mm,
real bad.
that's a good
Just
one.
trying to answer the question for someone out there
Yeah.
that can't wait to go in there and get checked out. Because I want to come to Texas, and when I'm in Texas, I'm gonna be in your office for sure. I need it so bad.
Oh, look, can you do an analysis with the cameras and everything over Zoom? Can you hook up Zoom to that camera?
Little sneak peek that we're going to have remote analysis pretty soon for our Kinetic
Dang.
Oh, look
virtual.
at that, man.
I was gonna say I was gonna say
First on
trademark,
young and
man.
successful.
I was gonna say, listen, man, that is my idea. I was
Already
gonna say,
too late, bro. I'm in the works.
dang, dang. All
A lot of
right.
people working on this, a lot of programmers, a lot of people back there creating the process right now, but making sure it's accurate before release. Got to make sure that everything's done properly. Again, I worked there for a year. I did a lot for them. I went to Rich Froning's gym, did all this stuff with everything. Like I was a big major part of this. And my focus is building these clinics for people right now and connecting to more patients and being able to help doctors help more patients, meaning that even if I'm not treating that person, I know that I at least got to help more people because I got to help these doctors help them in a different way. And so I
Absolutely.
get to do it that way. So I get a little bit of background knowledge. I still get to go into some meetings. I still get to see all this stuff. And when new things are released, like the new modules, like the knee risk injury and all that stuff, we get it first. And we're the leading experts in the United States. So you're going to want to go to us anyway. I mean, I don't mean that negatively, but anybody can buy the technology third party, or you can go to the people that train doctors on how to do it. And I know that people are going to help other people everywhere else. in my heart, I'm going to make the Kinetic Centers the #1 clinics to handle it and do it. So it is what it is. Now, to answer the healthcare question, the other clinics that are not mine will have insurance available. But what I did was I bundle priced. So instead of charging you separately, like it would be done to your insurance, like you would pay, you do a copay for your chiro and they would cover all this. Well, what happens is they charge the separate fees, like they'll charge you for this and charge you for that. If you do these therapies and charge for that, I don't do that. I don't charge you for the excess screens. I don't charge you for any of that, which does happen. Like you go somewhere else, you pay $50 for the CAMS movement screen. That's a part of your first visit. On your follow-ups, you always get rescreened. You get myofascial work, scraping, cupping, chiropractic adjustments. You get your rehab, and you get to track all this with the tech. The only thing that's separate is that we have, like Shay mentioned earlier, we have a robotic laser, and that is the #1 laser in the United States. That is post-surgical. The Dallas Cowboys have it. Everybody, we got the #1 laser because it helped my meniscus tear. So from there, like that is an extra fee because it's something that I have to pay a lot of money for, and I'd like to break even on that and help some people.
That's business, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm paying for that ahead of time, and I pay for it monthly. But that's the only reason it's extra. Everything else that we do, that's a part of your visit. And that's, we started at $65 a follow-up. Now it's just at $80, so it's $15 more. And you can go to a chiro in Dallas and pay $100 just for the adjustments. So I hear people, and let's talk about that real quick too. That's a big part for me because if I'm spending, think about this, I'm spending 30 minutes with you, right? You're getting a full functional movement screen, you're getting gait analysis, whatever it is, there's your screening. Put your value on that as you want to put it from the expert. So really it should be valued more, even though I don't charge more for being the expert. I just charge what the normal anybody would charge for it. So really there's value there. Secondly, the chiropractic adjustment, let's range it from $35 to what, like $70, whatever you want to. I'm not going to put it at the 100 top mark, but 35 to 70, run it through there. Then the rehab, and then the fact that I've rehabbed for 12 years with all these doctors, you go to a PT, how much are you paying for one visit on the PT? And then my point is here that you go to, I hear this all the time, Beau, I could go to the chiro down the road, the chiropractor down the road, and I could pay $35 for an adjustment. And I'm like, you sure can. And then my next question is, how much time did you spend with them? And they say, well, 5 minutes or less. I said, let's just say it's 5 minutes. Do the math on it. What's the math? You're paying $240 for 30 minutes whenever you're paying me $80 for 30 minutes, and you know how much more time and effort and how much time I'm putting into your health and your life, and the fact that I care about your process and I'm using this data, trying to really help you figure out what's going on. I'm giving you rehab so you can work on strength and mobility and your greatest weaknesses. I'm treating you with my hands-on technique and that I can feel the tissue and I can feel where it is. And I've worked on this for years. I'm doing all of this and for 30 minutes, yet you think that $35 for 5 minutes is a better deal?
Yeah,
like that
I was also thinking you have data on yourself now, right? The other place you don't get any data on how your body works, you actually do have information that is not available anywhere else on yourself. This is major.
I'm only charging $80 for 30 minutes. They're charging $240 for 30 minutes. And that's on the low end. Let's be honest, that's on the low end. And they're treating anywhere from 100 to 300 people in a day. Like that's good business, and helping people that the adjustment is going to help them and take care of what they have an issue with, that's going to help them. But for the people that the adjustment is not just going to be it, and they've got some issues and they need to know what's going on and what's causing it, and they want causation as much as they want to name their injury. I can name everybody's injury, but I hate doing that. I think one of the faults that we have in my field is that the diagnoses is the main focus, when I think the diagnoses is a symptom. And if I'm going to name your symptom, well, you can go anywhere for that. But if I'm going to name your causation, that is going to be what truly helps you in 5 years down the road, where you're not dealing with this shoulder and you're not dealing with the same thing. Or you know what, if you start to feel it again, you know what you can do to help it, because you know you actually didn't put the time in to build the strength and do all the stuff you need to, but you don't really hurt. You can do some stretches and stability, like, man, I'm still running great. I just do my stuff and I'm fine. I hear that all the time, and they know it. They know they could have done the extra steps and they could have built more strength to get rid of it. I also have the people that, and this clinic's almost 2 years old now. I also have the people that have, for a year and a half, it started with me in the beginning. They're like, I have not felt it since. And I haven't done the same exercises or anything like that. I've just gone back to my normal workout routines, but I put in the time and the effort and I worked on myself. I worked on my own health at home. And that's what we do. We empower you to do your own healthcare. You need to have power of your health. Don't rely on somebody else. Yeah, I'll help you with treatments. I'll help you with the tissue healing. I'll help you get stuff reset where it needs to be. And I'll teach you what's going on in your body. But you need to be a part of your healthcare process. And this is not something where you're going to say, this doctor fixed me. Because on my wall in my office, I have teamwork on the wall. Because I tell every patient, when you walk in this door, the first visit, it says teamwork right over there. Because if I do this, I might get you better, but it's going to take a while. If you do it with this stuff, you might get better, but it's going to take a while. If we both do this together, you're going to get better and you're going to get better way faster. And then you're going to feel better and you're going to be able to do things you didn't think you could do. I got to tell a quick story because I'm lit up right now. I'm a little fired up.
We're here for it, man.
$35 for 5 minutes. You're telling me I'm expensive.
My mind is ready.
Kidding me, man. Oh, if I wanted to do business, I could charge $200 for a follow-up. I'm not doing that. But anyway, my point is that I have a lady who came to me and she was in a major car accident and she has this back injury. She saw chiros like crazy. And I mean, list of chiros.
Yeah, because that's part of what the insurance payout is. Like you literally got to see them often.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? She put the time in. She put years in. She put years after this car accident in, and then she got a spinal fusion. But the spinal fusion came after injections. So she went through the injection. She went through the medication. She went through the chiro. She went through the spinal surgery. 2 years after her spinal surgery, she's still on a pain level of 6 or 7 out of 10, and everything hurts, and she can't move without hurting her back. And everything, even laying down hurts. And she's always in pain her whole life. She walked in my door and I looked at her and said, I can't say her name, HIPAA, we get in trouble. But I said,
absolutely. Yeah.
You will lift a barbell. She had never lifted a barbell in her life. She'd never done any kind of weightlifting. I said, you're going to lift a barbell. And she goes, Beau, there's no way I'm going to do that. I've never done it. There's no way after all this I'm going to do that. I said, I'm sorry. I don't care what you tell me right now. I know what's going on in your body. You're going to be able to lift a barbell. And she put the time in and the work in. The first breakthrough, and she was a battle. She didn't even do her rehab at the beginning. So I was like, do your stuff.
Same work, you're doing all the work, I'm paying you.
Yeah, I'm over here like, come on, come on. You're not going to get better. You're a project. You're one of my projects. So I need you to get better. A classic car. It's a beautiful car. You got to put some work in it.
Yeah.
So she's over here and she finally started doing her rehab a little bit. And she goes, she's in here. Oh, I'm just hurting so much. I'm always hurting. She goes, Beau, the only time I don't hurt is when I do my rehab. I said, excuse me, what did you just say? She goes, the only time I don't hurt is when I do my rehab. And I said, did you just tell me that there's a time that you don't hurt? And she was like, well, yeah. I said, isn't it the first time you haven't had pain in over 9 years? And she was like, yeah. And I said, maybe you should do more rehab like that. But she did the rehab. And then, you know what? I think it was right around maybe a year after all that, she put in the work. I wasn't seeing her every week. Like we spaced it out. Like I'm not trying to take from people. She came in and she did a barbell front squat for the first time. And I mean, she dropped 90 degrees. She had everything, man. And at that moment, I looked right at her and I said, you just lifted a barbell. And you told me you weren't going to do that. I remember you telling me that. She goes, I remember telling you that. And I said, get ready for the next step because you're going to put weight on that barbell and you're going to have much more going. And she cried. And I mean, people cry in this clinic all the time because it's about empowering the individual. And then everyone's like, Beau, when people tell me, Beau, you got me better, I always say, no, I didn't. That's not me. You did this work. You did that stuff. I helped you, but you did the work. And if you don't do your stuff, guess what? You wouldn't be here right now. And I have a ton of patients. And you know what? They don't want to admit it. None of them want to admit it. I have a ton of patients that haven't done their rehab like they should, and they know they're still hurting, but they don't even blame me. Like how often do doctors get blamed for that part of it? But they don't blame me because they say, I didn't do my stuff like I should. So I need to pick it up. And I help them. I show them where there's still a deficit on the technology. I give them numerical data to it. And then that's correlation to their symptomatology as well and why they have pain. So, I mean, I lost
really-
track. I jumped
No,
ship.
that was good. That was good. I really think that that's where the medical industry should be moving towards now that we're
Yeah.
finally getting access to this data. Because I've always told my wife that looks like majority of the time when I go to the doctor's office, they're focusing more on the problem, like you said, the diagnostics, instead of the
Yeah.
cause of the problem. My twin brother is a pharmacist, and I don't want to put him out there, but the medications don't heal you.
Treat the symptom.
They don't.
They don't fix the problem. They
They don't.
just keep you going. And if we can change that, and she and I talk about, what's it called, capitalism, much more
Compassionate capitalism.
compassionate capitalism, where
You make profit, but you
you
don't need
make
to
profits, but
take
then
away
you
from
fix
others.
problems, and you're
Exactly.
not just necessarily just taking money from others just to take money from others. And if we can
Absolutely.
do that in your industry, I'm sure we can do that in the cancer and all these other industries, that we can actually solve this problem if we want to, if we have
Yeah.
more people like you.
You're telling people that they're going to take their multi-million-dollar business and make it $1 million business, and that nobody likes to hear that. So that's a dangerous subject you're talking about right there.
Yeah,
Like,
Hey,
it is.
that's
It
the
is.
hard
I
part
mean,
about those industries.
it is what I mean. I think it is what it is, though. It's one of those things.
You got to
I
have
mean,
someone new. You got to have
yeah.
someone new that's coming in, because if you have someone that's, and I don't mean this negatively,
I mean,
but I
just
do
like
believe
you,
that
just like
people
you
build
know.
their business up. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
mean, like
Yeah.
you, man, you literally creating an own niche in the industry, and instead of you taking hundreds and hundreds of dollars and saying, I gotta see you every week, you have literally a new system that still gets people better, still make profits. I mean, you could be making a lot more money than what you're making now, but you've decided to take the unique
I
route
was.
and solve more problems.
Well, and remember, so another thing I do, and I tell this to patients every day too. I have someone every time that we talk, for money is like the big focus, obviously, in my
Yeah.
clinic. People are always worried about how much they're going to spend to get better. And I'm over here like, don't you think a surgery is more expensive? And then they're like, oh yeah. But my point is though that I tell patients all the time, my business is not the individual patient that walks in the door. My business is multiple Kinetic centers around the United States. I want to have Kinetic center. I want to personally, not the how many we're going to have. I want to personally own 20 of them, and I want them to be the best 20 in the company. But I want to personally own 20 Kinetic centers, and that's my business. That's how I want to be financially successful. But how I'm going to be successful as a doctor, right? And I'll always treat. I may not treat 5 days a week later on when I have to run these clinics, but I'm going to always be treating at least 2 days in the week to help people get out of injuries and help them with what I can do. But that's because that's a passion of mine. I like to help these people. But my thing is, I'm not going to look at someone walking in the door and think, all right, how can I add on to this? What add-ons can I do to where I can build this bill up for this patient? Which is what I was talking about earlier. Whenever you have all these add-ons, like I don't charge extra for cupping, I don't charge extra for myofascial work, I don't charge extra for scraping, I don't charge extra for excess rehab, I don't charge extra for excess screening. Now we can, if you don't see me through the process of care, you can come in just for a screen and pay for a screen. You can come in and do something. If you're my patient, you're going to go through my process. And I'm not looking at you like a dollar. I'm looking at you as like, I'm going to get you better as soon as I can. Because I know if I help you get better and you have, because for some reason, I'm getting people that have seen 10 to 20 different doctors all the time. That's what I get all the time, 10 to 20 different doctors. Well, that's great. Because what happens if I help them get better? That means, and I hear how young I am all the time. I'm tired of hearing that too, because they don't understand how many years I put it. Like, I'm just this 2-year practicing chiropractor when I'm over here like, no, I have worked 18 people a day for 4 years. Then I went to chiro school. Then I went for a year with the technology, and then I put all this in. And now I'm 2 years into the creation of all.
How many chiropractors do you know that actually knows technology? The technology behind chiropractic.
Yeah, there's actually no, and I've been to a few chiropractors myself, right? Before I even, like I said, the first time I came across this technology was when I ran to Dr.Beau here. Now before we switch gears, there's also one more thing I would like for you to speak to as well, and that is the prevention before cure, right? Personally, I'm more in the camp where I think, look, man, you cannot treat your health like McDonald's. That's just, I mean, that's just what it is. And personally, I think that you don't need to get hurt, right? You don't need to go through this horrible, I guess, phase of your life, right, before you start working to reverse all of these things. And I feel like that is the part where a lot of people kind of just neglect it, right? Because they're like, well, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm gonna be okay. But people get hurt frequently.
Yes.
And I think that's also where I preach to people to just kind of be fit, right? To go out and lift. It does not mean that you have to go out and lift like I don't know, 1,000 pounds or whatever there is. And maybe there is some sort of a disadvantage from with someone like me saying that to other people, because when I tell people like, hey, you should probably get into the gym and lift more, it's probably going to help you with X, Y, and Z. Because there are people who complain about things that really, I think for me personally, I just think that they're complaining about it because they are weak, right? And that's not to jab at anyone. But when I say they're weak, I just mean that they're not fit. They're not fit, and that is not like fit like an athlete, but
Right.
they're not physically fit for the battle of life, to be
Right.
honest, right? Carrying yourself around, being able to run up a set of stairs, just moving, having that speed and agility, carrying yourself, being comfortable in your own body, right? I
Yep.
think that is something that is critical. And you don't need to deadlift a bunch of weight. You don't need to squat a ton of weight. That's an athlete. You're going far out there. And I feel like most of the time when I talk to people about it, they're like, but you lift 600 pounds. It's not, I don't get it why they want to compare themselves to something that is not even what I'm talking about. Can you speak to that preventative maintenance? How would you get people to think of, hey, let me go in and check on myself before I get hurt and see how I can improve my health without being hurt first?
Yeah, definitely. And Che, you're 100% right. Like you're not being mean in any way, shape, or form. I tell people all the time, you need to be stronger. You think this is a mobility issue,
Right.
like you think you need to stretch, but you feel a tight muscle because your brain is tightening a muscle to guard this unstable joint complex that's trying to make sure you don't dislocate a hip or herniate a disc. Of course, your muscles in your low back are tight. Of course, your hamstring is tight. Of course, you have that issue. Until you correct your stability issue, it's always going to be tight. You're going to have that tight hamstring forever because you're weak. You have a weak glute.
Right.
You have a weak core. If you don't, you're weak in these areas and you need to be stronger. We preach strength every day. I do believe that a lot of mobility issues come from stability issues, meaning strength. So that's a huge piece. You're not wrong on that. And people do need to take care of themselves. Like every day, I talk to my patients about this too. I have barbells in my rehab area. I move a barbell before I go home. I may not have time to lift. I may not have time to get all this in, but I'm doing 5 sets of something. And like my fitness and my health and my strength goes up over time. You don't need to go out and, like you're saying, deadlift 600 pounds tomorrow.
Right.
But if you deadlift 600 pounds in 4 years, good for you. Like you put in that time over and built that strength. Your strength will continue to build if your nutrition's right, your rest is right, and you're always working because you're growing a little bit. The continuum of functionality is not linear. It does not, you do not get more functional and stay there. What happens is you're working on your functionality, you're getting a little bit better. Well, then you take a couple of days off and you start to come down a little bit. And what you want to do is be progressively going up in that scale versus getting where you're progressively going down in that scale. And when you go down, lower, injuries happen. So what we do, like that's a big piece. I want to treat the entire population, of course, right? Business, yay. But I want to treat them because I can baseline screen everybody and I can say, here are your weaknesses. You don't have an injury, you're right. But
Right.
you don't move very well and you don't hurt right now. But we all know that dysfunction comes before pain. And just because
Yeah.
you have pain does not mean something hasn't been present. And pain is a terrible thing to be going after and what you're looking at because it's already too late. Pain is your last warning flag. That's your body saying, hey, fix this because something bad's about to happen. And I get people in pain all the time. The thing is, they should be coming to me whenever they're like, I feel like my foot doesn't go straight. I feel like when I stand up weird. Like that's the stuff I hear, and they've been doing it for a year, and all of a sudden they're like, and I'm like, oh, there's people I can't help. I don't act like I can help everybody. I can help more people than they think that I can because they get scared and they go to an ortho who images them, gets them in their process, and then they end up getting a surgery. I don't think all surgeries are bad, but I do think that we can prevent a lot of them, as we've already prevented a ton here. And the point is to find out what's going on with you individually, and don't do an X-ray or an MRI that's going to show you some tissue damage that can possibly heal. Dr. Bill Morgan from Parker University talks about that all the time. The best spinal surgery that you have is already inside your body. And it's cells that go in and they'll actually, they'll eat the disc, the nucleus that comes out, and then they'll patch up the area. But you have to do the right things to help them help you get better too. It's not just about the human doing it, but we want human interaction. So really what people need to do is they need to understand if you're not moving right now, that's probably going to become something. So if you have a movement issue, go get it looked at by a movement doctor. If you don't have a movement doctor that you know of, look up a good PT, chiro, anything like that. I don't know of a ton of movement doctors as we're trying to make them here in this clinic. So I'd come to Dallas. But the thing is, like, prevention is always key. What the best athletes do prevention. LeBron James just hurt himself for like one of the first times, and he's like, "Oh, I'll never come back." I'm like, well, that's because you've only gotten hurt once. You've never really been through a process, man. Like I've been hurt like 27 times. Like I come back like a ball, like a bouncy ball. I'm right back, but I put in the work, and he may not be at the stage in his life where that's the best choice for him. So maybe that's not it. But my point is, he just got hurt. And that man is 260, 70 pounds, 6'9", and he's been balling out of his mind and going 100 miles an hour. So he's had a great team helping him with prevention. Eventually the body does break down, but you also have to look at stress load on the body. As in, I'm 32 years old. I don't do the same activity. I still play basketball for 2 to 3 hours at a time, multiple times a week. I still lift regularly. I'll do powerlifting, CrossFit, swimming. I do all of the mix. I do everything because I do believe that you need to keep changing your body. But you have to continuously put your health ahead with the time, your stability work, your rest, your nutrition, your vitamins. All of this matters. Like sleep. If you don't sleep, I mean, it's huge. Less recovery. How do you expect tissue that's breaking down to recover if you don't recover?
As well, right?
Do what?
How you sleep as well.
Yeah.
If you have a shoulder injury and you're sleeping on it, please stop telling me your shoulder hurts. Like I get it. Like don't lay on it. It's like people that come in, they tell me like, oh, it hurts when I do this, and they're like bending over and throwing their arm back. I'm like, stop doing that. Like don't do that. No reason to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I know we call this podcast Young and Successful, and we also have all the people that are on the show, that watch the show, and one of the things that I'm starting to feel the older that I get is this thing that you just mentioned, which is pain, cracks in the bone, all this sort of stuff that I wasn't feeling in my 20s. That I could jump and play around all day and not be tired. Now I'm just like, geez, it's 10 o'clock. Golly, I thought it's midnight.
Good. Oh, good. Go to bed at 10. That's a good thing. Go to bed at 10. You're getting your rest. Good for you.
Should you hear that? We got to go to bed at 10 now. No more midnight.
Listen, man. I've always been a 10 o'clock person anyway, simply because I need to wake up early.
Yes.
I can do the morning operation if I don't go to sleep early. So yeah, I think going to sleep early, getting enough sleep, and waking up early, it's there's some value to waking up that early, but that's
one thing. Kenny said, like the thing is, it's not about age, it's about functionality. Age is a number that I know a 74-year-old man who picks up a barbell at like 350 pounds and reps it, sets it down, and he's like, I feel great. That's who I want to be. I know another 70-year-old that's out running 7 miles a day. I don't want to do that. I'd rather be playing basketball or lifting weights. That's my personal choice. But
actually, that actually reminds me. I don't know if you've been to there's a older lady at my gym. I don't know if you've seen her before, and she's like a master's. I think she's up there. She's at least 60, right? I think she's one of the strongest women in the world right now. Actually, she still deadlifts like 315 pounds.
That's the thing, man. I do know who you're talking about because I met her at a couple powerlifting meets. Yes,
you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
So the thing though is it's not about age. It's about functionality, and that's what I measure. I measure your functionality, and I put numerical data onto it. So you're preaching what I'm saying is you remember your functionality graph that I talked about, the continuum. You're either getting more functional over time or you're getting less functional over time. So if you're starting to feel aches, pains, stuff like that, you need to put some interjection in and say, all right, now it's time for me to figure out what's causing this. Let's find some causation.
No, it's not for me
Yeah.
to come to Dallas, man.
You need
Hey
to.
man, we told you, man. We told you, you got to move out of here.
Hey, come experience these thumbs. You talk to my patients, I was like, don't let him do myofascial work. That is crazy.
Hey, no, absolutely. And by the way, I do have to come by again. I know I've been skipping, And I would say this though. I would say this after coming to your clinic for a while there, I did kind of get like an elevated sense of awareness of how my body was moving.
Good.
And sometimes currently I feel like I'm a little bit tilted off, maybe 30 degrees in the wrong direction. I don't know which way it is, but I can tell sometimes.
Probably towards that microphone to your left.
Hey, I try to center the mic, man, but then again, I have the swinging chair to counterbalance the situation. You know what I mean? So if I need to go this way, then
Yeah,
but
but you keep keeping your head right here as you swivel your body around it.
hey, you see,
You think
he's
I haven't
picking
been
up-
watching you guys?
hey,
I've been
he's picking up all the movements, man. Look
I'm
at
ready
this,
for
man.
you. Can you come on down to
Okay,
Texas?
hang on now.
Work on.
Where's my ruler, man? I need to straighten up, man. So how's that now? See?
Look
Now
great.
we're
Oh,
straight
man.
forward here. Absolutely. Yeah. But no, I do have to come by. I know we're running out of time here, but we just have a few more questions here before we shut it down. Let's talk about discipline and habits. What are some habits that you've picked up, and how do you discipline yourself to kind of keep up with everything that you're doing? And how would you, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to get after it?
That's a hard one. And I think that I struggled with it too. Like I've struggled in my own areas, and I think everybody struggles, and it's okay. You don't look at these as big faults and like things that are just like detrimental to your life. You look at them as learning steps. I've had my own issues with managing my calendar schedule, making sure that all the different avenues that I'm working on stay up. But I try to reevaluate myself every like month or two, and I try to reevaluate what I'm doing and say, hey, this is what I need to focus on now, and I need to do better here because it's a weakness. And just like I do in my movement patterns where I evaluate and work on my greatest weakness, I'm working on my greatest weakness in business also. And I know that before, honestly, sleep, like we're talking about, like I was staying up till 12 and 1 and waking up at 5 a.m. and then going into the clinic and I'm sleeping 4 hours a night. And I felt it in my body was breaking down more. My meniscus tear was getting worse. Like everything was just getting there, and like things were slipping. Like I had patients that said, "Oh, Beau, you didn't respond back to me," stuff like that. And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that I had missed you. It's not that I'm trying to." And they're like, "Well, I don't understand why you didn't respond." I'm like, "I got a lot going on. That's just not an excuse for someone that you're helping through healthcare." And then I would hate to hear that as a patient. And I look at that as that's my biggest weakness. So what did I do? I focused on being better about that. And I try to be better about that. Now, if you're one of my friends and you text me, it may take 2 to 3 days to get back to you. So don't even worry about that. But if you're a patient and you're like, hey, like I'm going to share something right now, and this is a little controversial. I have a patient of mine who got the first COVID vaccine and he almost died. And right now, him and his wife, I've been helping them through this process because they haven't had a doctor that's helped them. So I've got him to the right area, and I contacted very high up doctors in Dallas, and we've been communicating about this patient to make sure, because his whole face started dropping. He couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, he passed out onto the concrete, he couldn't walk. His wife had to wheel him into the ER, and he couldn't move. And they had a baby like 3 or 4 months ago, a 3 to 4 month old little boy, and this dude just passed out like that. And then they gave him a steroid shot and an IV. He came back out of it, he's feeling good. Week and a half later, his headache's coming back. Headache's progressing over that. 3 weeks later, his face is drooped again, and he's got an 8 out of 10 headache, and he can't eat again. So I could assume what I think is going on with that. I can get in trouble for that, but I have a good idea of what I think is happening to his nerves. And now he's in a hospital. He's going to take care of that. But just like I told them, I had my phone on last night. I don't care. Like I know it's Mother's Day, my wife's asleep and everything like that. My phone's on. If you need me, you call. If I don't, I will text you as soon as I can. I said today they were on their way to the ER for the 3rd time. I said, you text me if you need me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. As soon as that patient walks out the door, I'll check my phone. And I did. And I was making sure I was there, but that was my greatest weakness. And I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at my time management. My podcast has slipped. I did not take care of my podcast as I should. But again, like I've got so much building going on. I was trying to announce the guest that I had next. And when the guest and I schedule didn't match up, it caused me to slip on my podcast. So I also was like, you know what? I'll just continue to build my library as I build it. My listeners probably hate me a little bit. That's fine. But I'm going to continue to build and provide good quality. And I think quality over quantity is always important. So that's what we have. And again, I'd started a 3-part series by myself to keep making sure that we have good data coming through and good information coming through. And I've never done an individual podcast on my own, but that's what I did. So I do believe it's reevaluating yourself, identifying what your weaknesses are, and trying to work on those greatest weaknesses. If you work on your greatest weakness, you're stronger in the future. If you don't, and you work on something you're already strong in, you're probably going to be about the same.
It's very true.
What's your podcast tag?
It's called Kineticast. So just like behind me where it says Kinetic, but without the C, and then KAST, so Kineticast. And what it's based on is movement, and I talk about the technology almost in every episode. I talk with different athletes, again, Rich Froning, Dr. Bill Morgan. I have the author of the book called The Oxygen Advantage, Patrick McGowan out of Ireland. I have some really cool guests on there. I have the UFC Performance Institute. I have their trainer, and I have their PT on a podcast with me in there. I've got really high-level guests, and it's really cool information. Again, I don't put any marketing dollars to that. Kinetic hasn't put marketing dollars to that. So it's not like it has a lot of listeners right now, but again, I'm building a good library and I'm building it. And I really think that the information we have on there is at least beneficial to people that are interested in movement and physiology.
Just good information. Kineticast. Definitely. Everyone should check that out.
So this is the one, this is the part where I get to ask the question about the biggest challenges in the process of you starting the Kinetic Center and how you overcame that. If you can give us a little quick short answers to that, that would be great.
Yeah, you're learning that my answers aren't always short. COVID.
I like the long answers, man. You get to learn.
I like the long answers
too, man. Yeah.
Well, it's because my brain jumps. It goes too fast, and I start moving to something else.
Well, here's the thing. I would say this: like, if we had a podcast and you were just on here just hitting us with like really short answers, it would not make a great podcast. It would not make a great podcast. First of all, it would not provide value to anyone. Second of all, and I don't know, if someone doesn't want to listen to it, I don't know what to tell them, man. So drop the knowledge. Drop the knowledge, sir.
No, they're not trying to work on their greatest weaknesses.
Exactly.
So, for real, hardest part was COVID. This clinic, we opened it, built it. We didn't have any patients when I opened the doors, and I think we made like $1,300 the first month. We didn't make that wasn't in the green. Like that was $1,300. And my rent is like 4 times that. So we got 3,000 square feet, 8 treatment rooms and a rehab area. So and we got staff. Like we have bills to pay, right? But COVID hit. People aren't looking for new doctors during COVID. People aren't looking to take care of their physical movement issues during the beginning, especially in the beginning of COVID. Later on, they're like, I got worse. And then they got better for us. But in the beginning, nobody was going out. So luckily, I've had things happen in my life before with money and individually, like before my wife, because she won't let me mess up money. But I did not save as properly when I had my apartment and I was younger. And I had to ask my parents. I was like, guys, I only have half my rent this month. And they're like, well, what did you do with the money? Because they said you can't go to college and not work. So I worked and I went to college too. I had a job then too. And I was like, well, I kind of went out with my friends. We had some fun. And my dad was like, look, I'm going to help you out this month, but this is not a common thing. And you're going to make sure that you'd be able to take care of this. And I would never forget that. And I'll never forget not being able to pay my own rent at that time. So now, whenever COVID hit, whenever we started, because we were building, right, because we had 6-7 months, man, our growth was like this. We were just jumping up. We were growing fast, like tripling each month. We were tripled. And like, those are awesome numbers. Now, did it put us on a lower growth path now? Yeah, it is what it is. We don't get the triple every month, but that's okay. We're still growing. And we're growing pretty fast. It's just, that was wild growth because it was the excitement before COVID killed it. but I mean, still, we're doing good.
It's same thing with the gym, dude. The growth was always, steady onto COVID, and it's been interesting after that. But carry
Well,
on.
I went through 5 different marketing companies. I did like all these different things, and I was doing a list, and then I learned a lot myself. But the point is that when COVID hit, we didn't have the level of patients to pay the bills, and we had to close for 3 weeks. And we were 6 months old or 7 months. So yeah, 6.5 months old right when COVID happened, and we had to close for 3 weeks. Imagine being a
Yeah.
clinic without funding, without anything, that was just started up. That's a cash practice and then you have to close for 3 weeks. Imagine that. Like, I'm not billing insurances and doing all that and getting later checks. I'm getting what was paid up there, and that's all we got. So because of what happened in the past, I just took a little bit and I saved a little bit from each month, and I made sure not to spend it all on like new equipment. We needed to advance the clinic, and we have advanced it. It looks way different than day one, but at that time, I stopped advancing the clinic, and I was just like, let's just like a little bit here, buy this, buy that, not a lot. And when COVID hit, I had enough in my savings to make sure that we paid rent, paid bills, do all that. And I used most of my savings. And it kind of sucked because I was like, yeah, look at this. We're starting to make money now. I got some money in the savings, but used all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm saving again. Come on now. I got some
Absolutely.
money in the savings, but at
Hey,
the
man.
It's painful, man. It's
You
so
always
painful to
you always
see you build
rebound.
all that and then just give it right back out.
But you guys are investors. You understand like what
Yeah.
I have patients who are very, very, very good high up businessmen in Dallas. What I do is I invest in myself. And I think that shows through with what I've always done and with my time, because time is money. I could be working on a job, do a different job, make money at that time, but I invest in myself. So I would take the cash that we make and I take the stuff that we make and I reinvest it into the clinic. I advance this clinic for all of our patients that I am not charging what I should, and I am investing for them so they get a better process, that our doctors have more equipment, our doctors have better technologies. We have the #1 laser that you can possibly use, and we have all of this stuff, right? And I invest into myself because I know if I'm investing into myself, I know I can control it. And I know what I am doing is well thought out and well planned, because when I built this clinic and I built this, it took me 8 months to design all this because I didn't build one clinic. I built 25 clinics, and I have the plan for that. But I was not gonna not gonna let something like COVID run through and just ruin everything. So that was the hardest part. Learning from my past helped me beat that. I had money to do it, and we got through it, and now it drained it. And I mean, it drained it. And then we started building up on top right after that. I never had to do anything else. So we're still growing, and we still, and
building that strong foundation, right?
yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Now we're not even 2 years old yet. We're about to open the second location, and we have investors coming in that want to open more, but we have one investor that we're going to partner with. And I'm going to be the co-owner. That's why I'm a co-owner of the next clinic, because they're going to be a part of this. They do something really well. And obviously I do something really well. So think only not even
So-
2 years old yet. And we're going to open the second location.
So
After-
yeah, let me to understand, if someone wanted to have one of this clinic, they kind of, is it a franchise sort of deal through you, or?
So it's a franchise, but I've already had multiple doctors approach me. They're not, nobody's franchising yet. Not until I have the model built properly. Now I do have everything that we need. That's why we're ready to open the next location, but I'm not ready to franchise this out 100% to where I can trust all these doctors to go run this the same way. They have to go through my training. They have to go through all these different things. And it's going to be a couple of weeks of training to be able to do what I do. And they're going to have to be willing to put the time in for that. And I have other docs that have approached me like, hey, we'll pay this, pay that, pay that, pay that. I'm like, nope, you're not the right fit. You're going to run it a different way. You're going to be a different doctor. You're not going to be a movement doctor, and that's okay. But that's not the right thing for our clinic. And so it is a franchise model. We will be hand selecting the people that do get to franchise, and we'll be training them as they do it. And this is not one of your, remember you already mentioned McDonald's. This isn't someone opening up a McDonald's right down the road. This is not what that is. This is a movement clinic where people go to get better and they learn causation about their issues. And we're going to open those up across the United States. Right now,
Incredible.
we're going to have a couple in Dallas, and Dallas is going to benefit more than anywhere else. But we're going to spread out after that.
Of it. Right. I guess our last question then is just, what is your why and what is your definition of success?
My why would definitely be I think I came into this as an athlete that had been hurt a lot, that has seen a lot of chiros, that have been a lot of different processes. My why is to help educate doctors and help them help more people. So I believe that if I can educate a ton of doctors that are doing a process that's going to help find causation, I'm going to be helping those people also. So I get to help more people in that process. My why is helping people. My definition of success,
Yeah.
man, I don't think I'll ever be successful. Like, I got
It's a journey, isn't it? See, that's what I'm talking about.
when I am 60 years old and I'm treating like people still, again, probably twice a week because they got these acute injuries and people aren't doing their rehab right. I don't care how old I am, they're not going to do their rehab right. They're just going to blame my age now. And when I become 60, I'm like, what's your excuse? And then, but when I'm 60 years old, there's 50 Kinetic centers in the United States, and they're in different countries, all that running. And my family is well taken care of, protected. My friends are taken care of. People that are good people are taken care of. I will be successful when my family's happy and everybody's there and people are helped. But again, I'm probably not going to be the type that's 65 years old and quitting. I'm going to be building, and I'm going to build more. And what this is now is not what it'll be then. And what I think this is and what I think it will be is not what it will be, because what I thought it was, my 5-year goal is about to happen in 3. I believe my 10-year goal is going to happen in 5. And then I don't even know what the future is, but success is just, I mean, we're all successful if you're helping people. That's all it is.
There you go. The sky is the limit, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't put a ceiling on yourself.
Exactly.
Don't tell yourself you can't do anything. Like, I always thought I wasn't going to dunk a basketball again after I broke my ankle. And every time I started dunking it with 2 hands, I broke it again. And I was like, I'll never dunk again. And then I broke it again, and I dunk again. And I broke again, and I dunk it again. And I was like, you can do whatever you want to do. I should probably just stop breaking my damn ankle. But like,
I was gonna say, you probably want to preserve the ankles if you're gonna make it all the way. You know?
My rehab. I learned from my past.
Oh, true. Oh, okay. There we go. No, he's good to go. He's good to go then, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, this has been fun. I do have to come by the clinic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get on the website. I already know the process. I'll get on the website and I'll set up my appointment, and I'll show up there. Yeah.
Oh,
and
anybody can too, Jay. www.kineticcenterDallas.com. You go in there, you can put me or Dr. Brennan. We got 2 awesome movement doctors, both ex-athletes, collegiate, everything that you could want, well-trained, the experts in tech, and you can book your visit. And then whether you're hurt or not, you can begin to prevent re-injury. And Kenny, you can book that thing 3 months out, my man.
Hey, Kenny is coming to Texas.
I know. I'll be there. I'll be down there. I'm in Texas.
I'm excited to meet you. I love soccer players.
That's one of our activities. That's one of our activities, you know, after the go-kart races.
After go-kart racing, yeah. So Kenny wants to come here and experience.
I was supposed to go with you last time. I think you went to that Andretti's, right?
It's a Dallas Karting Complex. They have some insane stuff out there, man. We got to make that happen. I think it's going to be a great outing for everyone.
I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'll be all over it.
Oh, all right. There we go, man. Hey, I don't think anyone is going to be catching me. I'll let you guys know that right now, man. Yeah, you guys don't want to test me out on the track.
Kenny and I will let some air out of the tires. He'll distract me, and I'll get the tire real quick.
You cut through the grass. Throw some banana peels. Exactly. I love it. Hey, Dr. Beau, this has been amazing. Very informative. Very exciting and interesting interview. I can't wait. Hopefully we can have you again on the show to ask a lot more about what you're doing and just about your future plans for the clinic, right? So until next time, Che out.
Double O out.